Okay, if we can, we'll just get started on amendment testimony, and we'll just move down the line. So if we could, Ms. Jackson Lee, I'll start with you, and then we'll just go right on down. So the gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Chairman, thank you very much. I come here today acknowledging the parameters that we are in. This is an unusual setting. It's not the usual bill that would be subject to a closed rule. It is the life and death of this nation. Near default will ruin all of the people that we care about. And if I might, any effort to save us from H.R. 1 is a step in the right direction. Many of us are troubled, but I am very grateful on some basic points that I hear my friends consistently talking about, and I will abbreviate my amendments to allow me just to say these few points, consistently talking about the denying of the ability of the Department of Defense to function, the men and women to function after coming from a very emotional Memorial Day that many of us went through. I'm confident that we will have a fighting force, and these are false straw men. Confident that Ukraine will be taken care of in what the president has tried to do. In addition, there was a long journey about deficit or debt to GDP. One thing we can guarantee is that the CBO indicate that the deficit will go down. But if you attack only the smallest amount of dollars, non-discretionary dollars, and not the other large pieces, you're not going to see the debt go down as one might expect, but you will see the deficit go down, and that is a combination of all of us working together, including the president's, in essence, holding of the line. I know it's not good to try to tout what one side has gotten and another side has gotten, but I do think it's important to correct misstatements that have been seemingly occurring over and over again. There's nothing wrong with an omnibus or a minibus. If Mr. Massey's concerns can be answered, we will have done our job and got it done so that we don't get a decrease. My final point is for those of us who realize the vulnerable people in this country, to the president and his team, and certainly he had to have agreement, we are being responsible by maintaining the 2023 funding. Some of us feel the pain of that, but it is certainly different from the draconian cuts of H.R. 1. So I open with those points and want to offer, I don't want to give a long message on the detailed aspect of it, but I do want to say to Ms. McGovern, I feel the discomfort in the fact that from the time I've been here, and I was here for a dear friend and the previous president when I first came in, when there was a big call for welfare reform. I come from a constituency of hardworking people where there have been great leaders that have come out of families that were on welfare, and they became great contributors to the nation. I voted against the work requirements that were in at that time in the new welfare reform, and I stand very confidently that that was the right thing to do. There are less deadbeats and queens than there are good, hardworking, desperate people who cannot tolerate the high costs sometimes of living in the United States. And so I noticed that TANF and SNAP have been touted as we've got them. It's a get-you piece of the legislation. I think what the compromise was and give some comfort, but I just want us to think about why do we go in that direction to feed people and keep a roof over people's heads, and those people happen to be individuals raising children, caring for a sick loved one, or caring for someone who is in a physical condition and needs care. I hope someday that we will redefine able-bodied because the language is bad. because it looks like you're talking about the boxing champion of the world, and you're saying that the able-bodied champion boxer is getting welfare. And that is not the case. I don't know where we came up with the ridiculous language of able-bodied. I don't know if somebody whose body is riddled with cancer and they've got limbs, they can walk. I don't know if they're able-bodied or not. I know they're in pain and they cannot function. So I'm offering amendments because we have been talking about the idea of SNAP and students and young people, and we have been able to capture those in aging out of foster care, but I have an amendment that would add a provision to extend exemption regarding current work requirement exemptions in the Food and Nutrition Act for a parent or person responsible for a dependent child up to the age of 24. Who knows what condition that child may be in, but we all know the story of children returning home for various desperate reasons. In Texas, 79% of SNAP participants are families with children. That's more than the national rate of 69% of SNAP participants across the country being families with children. In addition, our state is very challenged to be as enthusiastic as other states are about trying to help these people. Further, the SNAP participation rate in Texas for working poor people is 72%, which is also more than the national rate of 41%. We need to understand that parents continue to support children beyond the age of adolescence, impacting financial resources for families well into their early 20s. And just as a final point, across the country, there are 5.134 million and 528,000 in Texas, age 18 to 24, living in poverty. The statistics show us in 2021. And so, who knows, the parents may be sick and elderly. And I would hope that, I know this is not a place for change, but as we are trying to cut back, I want you to know there are other problems. Maybe on the other side of this, we'll get a chance to, once for all, dig into able-bodied. Makes me think of someone who go out and go on a construction line, or like I said, box, or run a 4-minute mile, or less than that. I guess that's slow nowadays. I have an amendment number 59. That was amendment number 56. Amendment number 59 that would extend the former foster care exemption to individuals, all individuals 24 or younger under state custody and aging out of critical support services. Just think that there are 23,000 children that will age out. That age is younger than 24. And every year in Texas, more than 1,200 voting adults age out of the foster care system, and they need a little bit more help. They wind up homeless. And I just think that we can help a little bit more in terms of children and young people who are really trying to make it. Part-time education. I heard, Ms. McGovern, you also talked about the difficulty of transport, housing, when people are trying to move themselves out of poverty. I think we should recognize that people are impoverished not because of themselves and because of their desire, but because of conditions of life. Many youth in the juvenile and criminal justice system are not deemed to be indigent, but also have had contact with the foster care system, have been removed from their homes, even if they have not been formally adjudicated as a foster child. We need to help those because otherwise we're dumping them on the other side of failure. I want to offer those amendments and conclude my remarks by indicating that I will address my other amendments in another form because I understand that they are included in present law, and that is amendment number 62 and amendment number 63. I ask unanimous consent to withdraw those amendments at this time.
Without objection.
And so my amendments to be offered today are amendments number 59 and amendments number 56, dealing with our youth, dealing with students. We're still trying to get our hands around what happens to hardworking students, part-time students. We think that the issue is in the weeds, and if I can add clarity to that. But I'll conclude my remarks, Mr. Chairman, by simply saying that to offer to the Biden administration that the fight was a deep one, and it was because I believe the President and Democrats have a responsibility of protecting the American people, their quality of life, and their future. And that is what we fought to do. And it should be very clear that this side budget was because, unlike the Democrats' leadership with the past president of raising the debt ceiling 3 times without hostage taking, this did not happen. And so I want to have a good tone here and just say that the work that both sides did was worthy of the American people's need to be protected in their quality of life, and the most vulnerable at the beginning of life and the sunset of life and the future of this nation. So I ask my colleagues to support the Jackson Lee amendments, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer, is recognized to testify in his amendment.